What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing IZUKU Midoriya story. What if IZUKU Midoriya has the wolf summoning contract? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. That was the first thought that crossed IZUKU Midoriya's mind as he stood alone in training ground Gamma, the early morning wind brushing against his hero coat. The facility had been rebuilt, reinforced steel, shock-absorbent concrete, emergency barriers hidden beneath clean white panels, but IZUKU could still feel the echoes beneath his feet. The ground remembered. It remembered explosions, screams, blood soaking into cracked earth before the repair crews came. It remembered heroes collapsing where they stood, refusing to move until civilians were safe, or until they simply could not move anymore. Students would never notice. They laughed here now, trained here, dreamed here. That was the point. IZUKU watched Class 1B jogging in formation across the field, their instructor barking orders. He recognized the determination in their posture, the eagerness that bordered on recklessness. They reminded him painfully of himself. No, he corrected internally. They remind me of who I used to be. 8 years had passed since the war. 8 years since Shigaraki Tamura had fallen, not redeemed, not saved, but stopped. 8 years since All for One's will had finally been erased from the world. 8 years since Japan had stood on the edge of annihilation and somehow, impossibly, survived. Victory was written in textbooks now. But loss lived in IZUKU's bones. He adjusted the sleeves of his coat, the familiar green fabric heavy with symbolism he had never sought. Pro-hero Deku, the successor who had carried One for All to its end. The hero who had finished what All Might began. The world thought the story was complete. IZUKU knew better. His eyes drifted toward the skyline beyond UA's walls. The city looked peaceful, rebuilt high-rises, green zones where entire districts had once been leveled, memorials standing quietly between shopping centers and train stations. Names carved into stone, too many of them. Some nights, IZUKU still dreamed of rebel. Of reaching out and being just a second too late. Of hearing voices cut off mid-scream. He inhaled slowly, grounding himself the way Aizawa had taught him years ago. You're here. It's over. You did enough. The lie tasted familiar. Midoriya-sensei. IZUKU turned at the sound of a small voice. Eri stood near the edge of the training field, her white hair catching the morning sun. She wore a UA-issued jacket that was still a size too big for her, sleeves covering her hands. Her red eyes were wide, curious, alive. She was alive. That fact alone was a miracle IZUKU never allowed himself to forget. Good morning, Eri, he said gently, crouching so he was at eye level. You're up early. She nodded, clutching a small notebook to her chest. Aizawa-sensei said I could watch training today, if I didn't get in the way. IZUKU smiled. That sounds like him. Behind the smile, his awareness sharpened. Eri's horn. It pulsed faintly, almost imperceptibly, but IZUKU had learned to notice things others missed. The glow wasn't the usual soft shimmer of stable rewind. It flickered, irregular, like a heartbeat out of sync. Eri, he said carefully, keeping his voice calm. How are you feeling? She hesitated. I don't know. Her fingers tightened around the notebook. My head feels fuzzy. Like when I get scared. IZUKU's chest tightened. No, not now. He stood quickly, scanning the area. Teachers were nearby, but far enough that panic would spread before help arrived. He placed a steady hand on Eri's shoulder. Hey, it's okay, he said softly. Focus on my voice. You're safe. Her horn flared. The air around them warped. Not violently, not explosively, but wrong. Like reality itself had forgotten how to breathe. Midoriya-sensei, Eri whispered, fear flooding her voice. I can't stop it. IZUKU reached for her instinctively. Eri. The world folded. There was no sensation of falling, no sense of motion. Just pressure, immense, crushing pressure, as if every moment IZUKU had ever lived tried to exist at once. Memories collided. All Might's smile. Bakugo's scream during the war. Ochako floating debris from a city that no longer existed. The moment Shigaraki's hatred had finally gone silent. And beneath it all, regret. If only I had been stronger sooner. The light collapsed inward. IZUKU woke up choking. Air burned his lungs, sharp with dust and detergent. His heart slammed against his ribs as he rolled onto his side, coughing violently. The floor was tatami. That alone froze him. Tatami mats, slightly worn, familiar in a way that made his chest ache. He pushed himself up on trembling arms, his movements clumsy, incoordinated. Too light, too small. IZUKU. The voice came from somewhere distant yet achingly close. A voice he hadn't heard like this in years. Inko. Panic surged as Izuku staggered to his feet and rushed toward the nearby mirror. The reflection stole his breath. Green curls, wilder, softer. Freckles scattered across around her face. Wide eyes filled with terror and disbelief. A child stared back at him. 5 years old. No, 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 no. He pressed his hands against the glass. Small palms. No scars. No calluses. No evidence of the war etched into his skin. But his mind was whole. Every memory, every lesson, every failure. He remembered dying cities. He remembered winning. Izuku. Inko's voice was closer now, footsteps approaching. Are you okay? The door slid open. Inko Midoriya stood there, young, tired, alive, holding a spatula and wearing an apron Izuku hadn't seen since childhood. The dam broke. Tears streamed down his face before he could stop them. I'm okay, he croaked, forcing the words out as he threw his arms around her waist. Inko froze in surprise, then laughed softly, wrapping her arms around him. What's gotten into you, sweetheart? Izuku buried his face in her shirt, breathing her in like she might disappear if he didn't. She's alive, he pulled back slowly, wiping his eyes. I just had a bad dream. Inko smiled. Breakfast will help. As she turned away, Izuku looked down at his hands again. No one for all, no power, but his heart pounded with something stronger than fear. Hope. Later that day, Izuku sat on the steps outside his apartment building, staring at the familiar street. Kids ran past him, laughing, chasing each other with careless joy. And then, Katsuki. The voice was unmistakable. Izuku turned. Bakugo Katsuki stood a few meters away, small and sharp-eyed even at 5 years old, palms popping with tiny explosions as he shouted at another kid. Don't tell me what to do. Izuku's chest tightened. Bakugo, his rival, his friend, his brother in arms. The boy who had once looked down on him, then stood beside him against the end of the world. Bakugo noticed Izuku staring. Their eyes met. For a split second, something flickered there, not recognition, not memory, but curiosity. What are you looking at, Deku? Bakugo snapped. The old Izuku would have flinched. This one didn't. Izuku stood up slowly, meeting Bakugo's gaze head-on. His heart raced, not with fear, but with resolve. Nothing, Izuku said calmly. Bakugo blinked. Huh, Izuku smiled. And somewhere deep in the fabric of time, a thread shifted.